The tale commences with a timid little Kurros being forcefully assigned the infirmary sweeping duty by some troublemakers, claiming that this is what a dependable, honorary health committee member would do. Poor Kurros has no option but to comply with a strained chuckle, but deep within he yearns to confront them someday. Unexpectedly, an eerie young lady emerges from behind the curtains, staring at them for creating a disturbance. She cold-heartedly threatens to finish them if they don't scatter soon. The troublemakers shudder in dread and begin to tremble like phones set to vibration. To Kurros' amazement, they hastily blurt out an apology. He instantly recognizes the menacing girl as Haimeia, their upperclassman, who is typically found in the infirmary skipping lessons. Kurros has had very little interaction with her being a health committee member. Out of nowhere, the expressions on her face soften, and she shyly wonders whether he has been compelled to tidy up again. Strangely, Haimeia seems to have a tender spot for him and treats him gently. But this unsettles him. Observing him all flustered makes her inquisitive. When she questions him about that, he suddenly gives up and drops to his knees while she watches him anxiously. Romance truly flourishes in the most emotionally chaotic circumstances. Kurros is puzzled about an otherwise frigid Haimeia Senpai's gentle behavior towards him. He recalls how she assisted him in tidying the infirmary the previous day, making him view her character from an entirely different angle. As he walks towards school, he is troubled to see the usual bunch of troublemakers strolling ahead and is braced for what's coming. Surprisingly, Haimeia materializes and menacingly drives them away. The bullies can't handle her daunting presence and bolt off. Clearly, she operates a complimentary pest removal service before school commences. She suddenly notices him, and her icy expression radiates warmth as she offers to walk to school together with him. A panic-stricken Kurros has no option but to agree, but as he nervously walks beside her, he consents. A great deal of curious stares upon them. Even he has a hard time processing the entire situation because they had only a handful of encounters in the infirmary. To clear out the misunderstanding, he gathers his courage and fires out the forbidden question at her. She gazes at him with a mysterious smile and in response asks him to figure it out. Staring at her amused expression, he is horrified even to consider that she is probably drawn to him. But oddly, she delivers a very peculiar reason wrapped in a cheerful tone about him being so enthusiastic to tidy the infirmary. He stares at her in sheer bewilderment, so she draws his attention to the approaching school bell. Presently, he is unable to make sense of his feelings, but he believes that walking to school with her is a tremendous privilege for him. The following day, Kurros is walking to school with Haimeia and gets distracted when she animatedly points at a black cat along the way. He doesn't notice that two foolish boys are trailing him covertly and then deliberately bump into him. She immediately becomes concerned while the delinquents mockingly apologize, saying they were in a hurry. But when Senpai grabs their collars firmly, they freeze and she makes them apologize properly because the collision was no accident. The terrified lads instantly bow before Kurros, anxiously assuring him of no such unpleasant incidents going forward. As they flee away, she worriedly wonders about his condition to his amusement. Suddenly, her gaze falls on his slightly grazed hand with light bleeding, and she frantically forces him to rinse it. At the nearby park, they locate a water stand in the park, and he washes his injured hand in considerable pain. Next, she offers to wrap his wound and instructs him to sit down. As he cries out in agony, she amusingly guesses that his graze might be stinging quite a lot. But unbeknownst to her, he fidgets nervously because he is unaccustomed to being tended to in such close proximity. Clearly, the real ordeal here is feeling overwhelmed by the attention. After she is finished, she sneaks a glance at him and seeing his contorted face, she playfully guesses that he might still be hurting. But he quickly steps back, embarrassed by the intimate interaction. He cannot help but notice the adorable little bandage on his hand. Later, on arriving at school, they are scolded by a teacher for slacking off and acting carelessly. Kurros panics while Haimeia indifferently glares at him. Kurros tries to reason with him, but the teacher refuses to entertain any excuses because nothing resolves teenage chaos like a loud adult with zero context. He accuses them of being irresponsible and disregarding school regulations. By being swept up in their antics. His words ignite Haimeia as she calmly gazes at him, but then she suddenly bursts into a chuckle, targeting his gleaming bald head for casting so much glare, making her miss his entire speech. The teacher apologizes to Haimeia for drawing her into trouble. The teacher flares up when getting ridiculed and declares her conduct offensive. To Kurros' misery, he threatens them with being punished by after-school cleaning. A humiliated Kurros apologizes to Haimeia for dragging her into hot water, but the latter remains composed and is secretly delighted for getting back at the irritating teacher. Detention is the consequence of her sharp wit. Meanwhile, Kurros is yet again captivated by her fearless attitude. With a radiant smile, she declares that accompanying him to school is so enjoyable that nothing else matters. He is undeniably left in a stupor by the lethal combination of beauty and boldness. As anticipated, the duo is stuck with scrubbing the pool after school as a result of disrespecting the teacher. In the morning, Kurros is struck with guilt for getting Haimeia Senpai into trouble, but then reassures himself that this is the finest situation one can land in after school. Seeing him all enthusiastic astonishes her, and she urges him to wrap up the chore. He acknowledges that she is stuck in the mess because of him, and he recalls how easily she can be provoked. So, instead of appearing elated, he puts on a long face, hoping that she is not upset about being trapped in that dreadful pool cleaning chore. She glances at his miserable expression and then cheerfully assures him that the chore is potentially enjoyable. At first, he is shocked, but then quickly agrees with her, greatly relieved to see her lightened mood. Her newly revealed generous nature overshadows her previous intimidating personality in his mind, and he hopes for deeper communication between them since they are the only ones on the cleaning duty. He finds it a perfect chance to discover her favorite things and her usual pastimes. His heart leaps in sheer excitement just at the thought of growing closer to her when his dream crumbles miserably on the arrival of several other troublemakers who have also been assigned the cleaning duty. To add insult to injury, the boys create a ruckus during duty hours, launching into a chaotic water fight. He anxiously informs Haimeia about the newcomers, but it appears that she is already filled with fury, staring blankly ahead. Recognizing her disdain for noisy gatherings, he gently tries to calm her down, encouraging her to ignore them. To his immense shock, she dismisses his point of view, making him question whether their feelings for each other are mutual. She is about to open up when a splash of water rudely interrupts her by striking her face. The rowdy students freeze in alarm as the heroine glares at them. They nervously plead with her and Kurros can't help but notice just how terrifying she is. Later, the others swiftly complete their duty and disappear. Meanwhile, Haimeia sulks in a corner. Kurros cautiously guesses that her sour mood is because of their moment getting ruined. Humorously, she is disgusted by her soaked clothes and hair and believes that she can always submit a legitimate emotional distress compensation claim. To move past the matter, she hastily ties up her hair and pulls off her drenched sweater. Next, she picks up the broom and is fully prepared for cleaning. Nothing mends emotional wounds quite like aggressive sweeping. However, the lad panics on noticing her clothing and quickly averts his gaze, fearing her intense wrath if she catches him. Still squeezing his eyes shut, he swiftly removes his own jacket and offers it to her. At first, she is astonished, but then appreciates the sensitivity of the situation. She thanks him for being thoughtful, and a delighted Kurros is more than relieved to move past the situation. She slips on the jacket and is ready to wrap up the chore as soon as possible. Meanwhile, he is relieved to have some quiet time with her. He suddenly recalls her earlier sulkiness triggered by the troublemaker's abrupt intrusion and wonders about the reason. When he asks her about that, she opts to stay silent. Out of curiosity, he insists that she respond to his question, but she only nudges him to work faster. Sulkily, he returns to cleaning, and then she mischievously turns the water hose on him. Quite later, while heading towards the infirmary, he had no idea that cleaning would be so enjoyable with her. Since the changing room is locked and the infirmary seems vacant, he decides to change in there. Not realizing the room was occupied, he enters and immediately notices Haimeia adjusting her uniform. Embarrassed, he quickly steps back and apologizes. After a brief, awkward pause, the thunderstruck lad stammers out a small apology and walks away heavily. He doesn't notice two watchful eyes and a bone-chilling smile trailing him, and thus he accidentally triggers hard mode. Out of nowhere, he feels as though he's in a nightmare as Haimeia suddenly taps his shoulder. Her calm but teasing voice warns him to erase that embarrassing memory immediately or face her casual wrath. Instantly he bolts for his life, complying with her gentle request. But we all know he will carry that memory for a lifetime. Even the next day, Kurros is gloomy from yesterday's blunder and is unable to shake it from his memory. He is quite uneasy thinking about how he will face Haimeia that day. Unexpectedly, he is about to run into her, and as usual, he gets panic-stricken by her intimidating personality. He gathers his courage to initiate a conversation with her and urges himself to utter a simple greeting. But before he can say anything, she drifts past him indifferently, leaving him completely stunned. The silent treatment is the ultimate challenge. He stares at her back in sheer disbelief, feeling completely overlooked. He panics at the thought of her being deeply upset about yesterday and finds himself in the worst possible predicament. He miserably recalls her glowing face and how they had grown closer even in the classroom. He is unable to concentrate as his thoughts are consumed by her. He suspects that he has probably misread her intentions, being a mere health committee member and might be insignificant to her. He is also troubled by her strangely different behavior towards him despite her intimidating personality. Still, he feels it necessary to apologize to her and clear up all kinds of misunderstandings. After school, he knows where to find her and heads towards the infirmary. As expected, he spots her wearing a hoodie and lounging on a couch scrolling on her phone. He hesitantly approaches her and then quite loudly calls out to her. She quickly pushes back her hoodie, revealing a bespectacled look, and appears quite pleased to see him. He watches her in a daze, but then quickly snaps out of it. He is anxious to gauge her reaction after yesterday's blunder, but she is surprised by his being so worked up about it. He brings up how she ignored him while passing through the hallway. Her face twitches in hesitation, and then she bashfully points to her eyesight as the cause since she forgot to wear her contact lenses that day. Also, her ears were plugged with earphones that made her practically oblivious. He stares at her so helplessly that she apologizes for causing him any distress. With a downcast face, he admits to being relieved and amused, declares the previous incident an accident, and absolves her from any blame. Still, she urges him to forget it regardless, or else he will be finished. But he is somewhat relieved when things return to normal. He admits he was fretting about her irritation just as things were becoming cozier between them. Seeing him getting so sentimental sparks a mischievous streak in her as she begins teasing him. Kurros conceals his face in sheer humiliation, denying everything. One morning while heading to school, Kurros overhears some students discussing the re-platform used for online chatting. He pulls out his phone to browse his own re-contacts and is disappointed to find only family acquaintances and trivial exchanges on it. He acknowledges that he hasn't managed to make friends ever since high school started. Suddenly, Haimeia's image surfaces in his mind, but he quickly dismisses it for not being able to determine her true feelings. Plus, he cannot even dare to ask about her contact information and can imagine her baffled expression on doing so. Still, he cannot help being curious about the kind of Rin user she is. He imagines her having a dark icon to reflect her mysterious personality, a cold, detached attitude while communicating, and usually remaining a silent spectator. Unexpectedly, she appears from behind, literally giving him a fright. Flustered, he manages to blurt out a greeting. She shyly responds to him and offers to walk together. He gladly agrees but cannot stop thinking about her. Her cheerful manner stuns him as he cannot believe that even after that blunder, her attitude is unchanged towards him. A burst of courage strikes him, pushing him to get her contact info, but before he can do so, she initiates exchanging re-information with him instead. He stares at her like a fool, making her frown at him, curiously guessing his lack of interest. But he hastily denies that and expresses his hesitation about exchanging info with the senior. He hopes that she is able to read his mind. A concerned Haimeia explains how she was unable to reach him after yesterday's blunder since he dashed away so swiftly. And then with a dazzling smile, she highlights their friendship being the primary reason to exchange re-information. Secretly, he is overjoyed to be regarded as her friend. In no time, the information is exchanged and she teases him for not having a profile icon. However, he is thoroughly surprised to find a cute little bunny icon on her profile and even learns her given name as Myosin. In his immense joy, he doesn't notice her expression shifting to a blank one. When he finally does, he anxiously asks her about that, but she are to move faster. While strolling through the school corridor, Kurros overhears some students mentioning Haimeia's name, which doesn't surprise him because she is quite well known. But when they reveal how she was spotted smoking, he is struck by a massive jolt of electric shock. The guys jokingly remark that anything could be expected from someone like her. But Kurros is still in a state of disbelief. He is certain that despite being formidable, she would never cross the line. He anxiously enters the infirmary to look for her and inquires about her from the nurse. The quickest way to verify a rumor is full emotional panic. The lady informs him that she is in the courtyard. Now the courtyard is adjacent to the infirmary, so he decides to take a quick peek. Still, While pushing open the door to the courtyard, he is considerably apprehensive. But then he quickly convinces himself that all he has heard is a ridiculous rumor. Shockingly, he finds her with a peculiar stick between her lips and a small rectangular box in her hand. From a distance, it appears to him that his worst fear has materialized. As he approaches her with a racing heart, she casually offers him one. He is relieved to discover that she isn't smoking a cigarette. In fact, that is a ramoon candy that she is biting and chewing. She chuckles that she is hooked to the one that is cigarette-shaped and crunchy. He accepts it with great relief and understands that anyone spotting her like that from a distance may draw the wrong conclusions, especially if they didn't know her. He finally brings up the rumor that has recently been circulating in the school about her smoking. All that drama over a piece of candy. She doesn't appear rattled since she is accustomed to all sorts of rumors attached to her name and displays indifference towards them. He expresses his relief and mentions how troubled he had been until he discovered the truth. She looks at him slightly surprised and then breaks into a meaningful smile. Playfully, she strikes a dramatic pose and asks how he would react if she really were smoking. A panic-stricken Kurros hopes that this is not true, and she laughs at his innocence, admitting that she is simply pulling his leg. Kurros is quite intrigued by the fact that Haimeia Senpai feeds koi fish daily in the courtyard and cannot help asking whether she is fond of them. Quite amused, she remarks that she is more interested in understanding their thoughts. Then suddenly she playfully expresses her interest in consuming them to know how they taste, sending chills down his spine. A brief awkward silence settles between the two and then he decides to assist her in this regard. He searches the internet to find ways to prepare fish and then enlightens her about how it can taste delicious if its fishy odor is properly eliminated. He even mentions how they can be enjoyed in miso soups and simmered dishes. Haimeia stares at him in disbelief, proclaiming that she was simply playing around. She sighs and concludes that her jokes are far too sophisticated for the likes of him. Meanwhile, he bashfully admits that her humor is too complex for him to grasp because he genuinely thought that someone like her can consume anything. But this time, he managed to send chills down her spine instead. Kurros is caught off guard when his elder sister Sora barges into his room. Suddenly, she grows suspicious seeing him all flustered and wonders whether he is watching something shady. Without letting him explain, she bombards him with another question about his availability this Sunday. When he refuses, she ignores him and pressures him for a confirmation. She reveals that her movie plans were abruptly cancelled because a companion had a change of heart, because nothing says family bonding like being interrogated before breakfast. However, she doesn't want to waste the tickets and offers them to him instead. He insists that she offer them to their youngest sibling, Umii. But Sora subtly hints at his idleness by mentioning that even Umii is occupied with her club activities that Sunday. He cannot help but wonder about the film's genre, which turns out to be an intense horror. Since she has 2 tickets, she suggests he invite a companion to use them, believing that he might have made some friends in high school. After she has left, he unconsciously scrolls through his re-list, and instantly Haimeia's image flashes into his mind. Obviously, nothing says fun horror night like panicking over your crush. He desperately tries to shake it off, thinking that they are not close enough to hang out. But then his restless mind places both the horror movie and Haimeia's intimidating expression side by side, just like balancing 2 algebraic expressions. Just as he is staring at her previous message, unexpectedly, a message arrives from her side, and since his gaze is already on her chat window, the message is instantly seen by him. He is thoroughly mortified by the dreadful timing. Meanwhile, she seizes the opportunity to tease him for that, guessing that he was about to send her a message. Miserably, he is cornered and has no choice but to ask her out. To his surprise, he manages to inquire about her availability on the coming Sunday. She is puzzled by his unexpected question, so he nervously brings up the horror movie currently showing in the theater and that he has an extra ticket. Amused, she instantly picks up on his intention and agrees to go out with him. The stunned lad stares at the screen in sheer disbelief as she thanks him for the invitation. Deep down, he is profoundly grateful to Sora for handing him a golden opportunity. On the other hand, a baffled Haimeia is lying flat on her bed and her gaze is fixed on the screen. It appears as if she is uneasy about the upcoming situation. So once everything is arranged, Kurros rushes towards the lounge where both his sisters are watching TV. He asks Sora to help him find the right outfit for Sunday. The girls stare at him in amazement and then exchange a knowing glance with each other as they both suspect that he has invited a girl to the movie. Sora is thrilled to learn that finally the tickets didn't go to waste. A flustered Kurros tries to deny everything, But an elated Sora is all set to help him out with Umii desperate to chip in as well because clearly fashion emergencies are a family affair. Not only that, she even mischievously offers him some guidance that he irritably rejects. On a more serious note, she asks his thoughts on her wardrobe first, so he agrees on the condition of not being judged. Later, when he appears dressed as carelessly as he can, the girls are greatly let down. Sora commends him for being bold enough to seek their help. And later, his sisters manage to put together a suitable outfit for him. Sora even offers to trim and style his hair, being an aspiring hairstylist. In the end, she boosts his confidence by complimenting his attractive looks, which according to her are similar to hers. She reminds him that people often invest a great deal in their appearance when meeting someone special. So she advises him to generously praise her appearance if he finds her attractive. Seeing him in a stupor, she realizes how incapable he is at expressing his feelings. So she decides to wrap up her lecture and call it a night, leaving him more flustered than ever. Sunday arrives and a fully dressed-up Kurros is waiting outside the station a full half-hour early. He panics at the thought of appearing. So desperate, and moreover he is receiving relentless dating guidance from Sora. He realizes that he will be meeting Haimeia for the first time outside school and is curious about how she will appear. Next, he frets about whether his own casual attire is appropriate for their first outing. After a while, she arrives looking polished and radiant. Kurros is dazzled by her beauty. She coyly points out that it's 20 minutes early. He frantically tries to explain, but then points out that even she is early. She chuckles and explains that she misread the train schedule. Soon, she leads the way, claiming that she is quite eager for the day. He nervously swallows and then quietly follows. He anxiously steals a glance at her and cannot help thinking about how stunning she looks in casual clothes. He is uncertain about being worthy enough to walk beside her. So he throws a quick look at Sora's dating tips and fixes on the one that advises having conversation topics ready to avoid awkward silences. While walking, he casually wonders about her fondness for watching films. When she answers briefly, he bombards her with another question about her favorite outdoor activities on days off, because nothing says smooth dating like rapid-fire interrogation. She replies that she prefers staying home. However, he notices that the conversation is flat and one-sided because her mind seems to be elsewhere. While settling into his seat, he miserably realizes that she has reverted to her usual withdrawn self. A while earlier, when she went to use the restroom, he nearly came undone with worry, constantly thinking about something he might have done to upset her, or worse, that perhaps she was pressured into coming with him. He is so tense that he can't concentrate on the movie. He notices that even she has been eerily quiet throughout, and when an intensely frightening scene appears, he senses something trembling beside him. To his alarm, Haimeia is shaking visibly, making him question her tolerance level with the horror genre. Suddenly, she rises from the seat and with a nervous giggle gives up on that movie. He realizes that she wants to leave, so he grabs her hand and hurries outside. After she has calmed a little, she apologizes for spoiling the day and even offers to pay for the ticket. This romance is like fleeing a horror movie mid-scene, but he blames himself for inviting her without gauging her tolerance for horror films. Still, he cannot help but wonder about the reason she accepted his invitation to the movie. In a somber tone, she explains that she simply wanted to come in hopes that it wasn't an issue for him. He stares at her in sheer astonishment, and then enthusiastically expresses his delight about that. He gradually admits to his prior nervousness about their movie outing and the reason for his low spirits. Even Haimeia didn't have the heart to decline his invitation in the first place. She eagerly wonders if he's interested in continuing with their outing, and he wholeheartedly agrees. Deep down, he finds her vulnerable side unexpectedly endearing.